Nugget, a special presentation brought to you by Goldseek.com. Today's special guest, Bill Murphy from the Gold Antitrust Committee, as well as founder of La Metropole Cafe. Well, in the past week or so, there has been a very encouraging development in the case against gold manipulation, and the Gold Antitrust Association, GATA, run by Bill Murphy, Chris Powell, well, that watchdog group has been right on top of it, hard on the heels of the cartel here for over a decade. So it's a pleasure to welcome back Bill, who is not feeling well, but has decided to give it a shot anyway today. Welcome back.
Good to be here, Chris. Anytime.
Let's begin with this story that GATA broke recently. Since then, it's all over the mainstream press, and that's this London trader, Andrew Maguire, who blew the whistle on the bullion banks. Maguire is a metals trader in London. He claims to have been told firsthand by traders working with J.P. Morgan Chase that the investment house has been rigging the market. But, the story just became even more interesting. Apparently, after testifying on Thursday during a U.S. Commodities Futures Trading Commission hearing on limiting gold and silver positions, Mr. Maguire and his wife were assaulted in a very mysterious hit and run, which threatened both their lives. They were both in the hospital. Fire then subsequently broke out in the CFTC records room. This is actually documented in the New York Post.
My testimony was the TV feed went out just for when I was on. But Andrew's okay, and there was a helicopter chase and the whole thing. It's we just let people come up with their own notion of what's going on here, but it's quite something. Andrew is a former Goldman Sachs trader. He was disgusted where these guys were laughing at everybody, how they're ripping off the public, and he had too much to drink, I think, one night. And they were just saying, here's what we're going to do, and they were going to attack, and Andrew was making money himself doing the same thing. He said, they're going to give signals to everybody. He said, this is what they're going to do. So he got in touch with the CFTC, and for 3 or 4 months, led them along a way when Morgan was going to attack. And then they did. So we have copies of those emails, and it's just a huge scandal. But, of course, the mainstream press, they can't handle the truth. And so far, there was a big story in the Sunday Post, brilliant article. But since then, of course, it's died down because of the power and press in this country does.
As you alluded to, he did outline exactly what the manipulators would do. And he points out that, during these primary times, whether it's an economic report, this is when the raiders come in and take advantage of the volatility in the market and try to take out some of the smaller traders. And, I guess we could look a little bit further into this police report here. It says they chased and the suspect finally arrested him. I mentioned the helicopter you talked about. This fellow struck 2 other cars.
Exciting story, if nothing else.
Exactly. What I think is interesting here, and you're not going to hear this anywhere else, before the Madoff affair broke, many people associated with the story either committed suicide or mysteriously died after either eating in a public place. We're not going to try to draw odd conclusions, but I think this may be a precursor of something very dark and sinister. Let's discuss another interesting development. Jim Cramer suddenly turns gold bug. Gold's moment has arrived. According to Jim, gold is making a big and obvious move. It's worth picking up some GLD or some bullion, he says. At a minimum, he prefers bullion. He says he's been waiting for the seasonal dip to end, and it's upon us. And he says that when Ben Bernanke is not going to tighten anytime soon, well, he says it's time to pull the trigger.
I've been pulling the trigger for 11 years. Nothing ever changes here. The more company we can get, the better. I think, as we said at Gold Rush 21, when the price was $436, we said the price is going to $3,000 to $5,000, so it's only $1,150. So it's got a long way to go, and silver's got a long way to go, and it's a great time to get on board.
Very well said. Well, let's move on now to the euro situation that's been, I think, dominating the dollar here in the past few months. And we've watched the euro hostage to the Greek debt concerns. Last week, we hear that Fitch Ratings cut Greek debt rating from BBB plus status down to BBB minus, citing a negative outlook. And, of course, the yield on Greek bonds soared to over 7.5%. That's the highest level in 12 years. When you compare that with other European debt rates, well, it's more than twice as high. So clearly this shows very little faith in the Eurozone's ability to manage the situation. Do you think that this euro sovereign debt is going to continue to dominate the dollar situation for a while?
I guess, but trying to relate it to gold is difficult. Was one time if it's a sovereign problem, that's bullish for gold, and if the euro goes through the roof, that's bullish for gold. So it's a win-win supposedly, and the only people that take us down is this gold cartel with our government's blessing. But yes, I think that the sovereign issues are going to continue, especially the United States and turning our states. California, Illinois, they're in dire shape, and I think they're just going to get worse. So you can look at it either way.
Do you think, though, that at some point people will grow concerned about a potential for margin calls and things like that? I mean, we still see the stock market holding up relatively well. We see most of the asset classes still recovering from that 2009 pullback. Do you have any concerns at all about a potential for another credit crisis?
I think that's always there. I think the thing we can bring to the party here is that my colleague Adrian Douglas on our board of directors brought up at the CFTC hearing to support Harvey Organ, one of our guys, that the paper market in London, the LBMA, is trading at about 100 to 1 over the physical supplies that they have around. And there's a potential for a real Ponzi scheme here if people go get their gold and silver. It's like they think of it as a fractional gold system. We believe that a lot of these depositories and people have been playing with other people's gold in unallocated accounts. And so that they take the money and they're using all the money, but the people don't have the gold and silver. They think they do, but they don't. Now, that's not a fluky statement to make, because a couple of years ago, Morgan Stanley paid $4.4 million, a fine, because they were told their clients they were storing precious metals for them, and they weren't, and they got caught. And we think that that's maybe prevalent in different depositories and even the LBMA all over the place. And that could make a panic. If people go to get their physical gold and silver somewhat around the same time, you will have another Madoff.
What would you put the odds of this occurring, say, in the next 12 months?
Not too good at that. Gold's gone up. This will be the 10th year in a row. It'll be 11, 12, 13. That I'm sure of. When and how this will blow up, your guess is good as mine. But it'll be a trigger. I mean, what the trigger for Madoff was the financial collapse, and everybody wanted their money. There's some things lurking in the background that could come to play, which I can't get into, which could set this off also, where all of a sudden there's a panic about one's gold and silver in unallocated accounts.
You know, I'd like to talk a little bit about the tungsten gold bar rumors that we hear going around. I've actually seen several articles recently. Let's see, there was 400-ounce bars in Asia recently identified, tungsten-filled. I think it came to a total of nearly $500,000 in one bank. Out of history, isn't it, with Archimedes trying to determine if the ruler's crown was either gold-plated or solid gold. Do you think that this could be a big problem moving forward for the ETFs like GLD and SLV?
I've heard the same stuff. It's been circulating, but learned about what's going on with what I just mentioned to you about the gold and silver that's really in these accounts and unallocated accounts, and that could just be it. We don't have to wait for tungsten bars to be found and all that kind of thing. This is real-time stuff, and we believe, again, that there's been a fractional reserve kind of game out there where people take people's gold and silver and they think they have it and they don't, and the people that have taken it are playing with the depositors' money. We'll see. You know, that's one of our serious concerns, and we'll see how it plays out.
I want to let you know that we appreciate you taking your time, especially when you're feeling under the weather. So we're going to keep this brief today. But I would like to give you a chance to tell folks more about GATA as well as La Metropole Cafe.
Well, I have a website. People can sign up for a 2-week free trial, lametropolecafe.com, and GATA, they can sign up to be on our email list. That's free. We've been at this 11 years. We are suing the Federal Reserve right now, so we need all the support we can get because they won't answer our questions under the Freedom of Information Act. They say that they are exempt from giving us answers about gold swap operation in the U.S. They say it's secret. Well, I don't know what's secret. Supposedly the U.S. hasn't been doing anything in gold in decades. It's 8,134 tons just sitting there. What is there not to talk about with us? So we're suing them. So that's the kind of things we do. We have international gold conferences. We're spreading the word, and this New York Post story on Sunday was just spectacular.
Well, hat tip for all you do, and again, get well soon.
Thank you. Bye-bye.